Good evening to everyone and welcome to today's wonderful evening with Dr. Murli Bharadwaj. Many times when we prepare for the NEET PG exam, what is the challenge? So much information, so much to master. There is no end for this game. There are very fat books, slim books, reviews of reviews, very short notes also. So which one to read? Fundamentally, there are around 50,000 high-yield facts. Whether you write notes or whether you listen a video or whether you do anything, but master these 50,000 high-yield facts, which is all the essence of the examiner. Now, how does our mind remember and reproduce in the exams? First, we need to summarize. Then we need to visualize. Then we need to memorize. Only three things: summarize, visualize, memorize. That's the best way to crack the NEET PG. And we need to solve some of the PYQs. Once you have these high-yield facts in the background, the base of these high-yield facts, then to master the fundamentals and solve the MCQs is a small game. So that is the whole purpose of this mind maps. There are totally 6,000 mind maps covering all the 19 subjects where I do the revision of the 50,000 high-yield facts for the tomorrow's NEET PG exam. So let me show you how to use these mind maps. So I have given the link below for you to click and download the PDF, and you can start doing the revision using the mind maps very rapidly, right? So let's make the great beginning, doctor. Earlier, I used to give notes in the form of paragraphs, and these mind maps are basically a consequence or a next version of this form of notes, which is in the form of paragraphs earlier. So let's make the great beginning. So can the online students can punch? Is the voice loud and clear for all of you? Can you please punch? Is the voice loud and clear for all of you, doctor? Yeah, good. Very good to see you back. And whenever time is there, I will try to join the live classes and try to help you as much as I can for your preparation. So, doctor, now, once you download the Microbiology Snapshots 150 Mind Maps book, you have what are the advantages of the mind maps for you to master the concepts. Then this is the list of the 150 mind maps that you need to master. And now let us go to the first mind map. Can the online students can punch? Whether the voice is loud and clear for all of you, doctor? Please do punch. Yes. Shiga toxin. So what is the importance of the Shiga toxin? Shiga toxin is produced not only by the Shigella, but also by the enterohemorrhagic E. coli. And how does Shiga toxin function? it inactivates the 60S, very important to remember, the 60S ribosome by removing the adenine from the ribosomal RNA. Both the Shiga toxin, both the Shigella and also enterohemorrhagic E. coli, both of them produce the Shiga toxin. But what is the difference? Unlike Shigella, the enterohemorrhagic E. coli does not invade the host cells, which is the fundamental difference. So how does Shiga toxin basically lead to development of dysentery? It damages the GI mucosa, it enhances the release of the cytokines, and typically it leads to hemolytic uremic syndrome. Typically, hemolytic uremic syndrome is more often by the enterohemorrhagic E. coli serotype 0157H7, but also you need to remember the Shiga toxin is what you need to remember. So that is all the story of Shiga toxin. Now we are going to the next mind map. So it's a very fast way by which you can do the revision, doctor. Now, yes. Now, bacterial exotoxins. This is one of the favorite questions of the examiner. How various bacterial exotoxins function? Every time you go to NEET PG, there will be one question on bacterial exotoxins, their mechanism. So this mind map basically helps you to summarize, visualize, and memorize for the exam. So inactivation of the elongation factor. This is the mechanism of Corynebacterium, diphtheria, and exotoxin A of the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. There are 4 bacteria that increase cyclic AMP. That's how the exotoxin function. Cholera, anthrax, pertussis, and E. coli. Now, what are the exotoxins that inhibit the protein synthesis? Corynebacterium, diphtheria, exotoxin A of the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Shigella, enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Their main mechanism is inhibition of protein synthesis. So what are the exotoxins that stop the phagocytosis? Our body's natural defense is phagocytosis. That is being stopped by the bacterial exotoxin. That's how the bacteria can be able to survive. That is Bordetella pertussis. Similarly, lysing the cell membrane is the mechanism of which bacterial exotoxin. The alpha toxin of the Clostridium perfringens, it has got a lecithinase activity. Similarly, Streptococcus pyogenes, streptolysin O need to be remembered. Now, what are the proteases that cleave the snare protein? Tetanospasmin and botulism toxin. And how does tetanospasmin work? Basically, it is a protease that cleaves the snare protein. It prevents the release of the inhibitory neurotransmitters, GABA and glycine. From there are inhibitory areas called Renshaw cells in the spinal cord. And there, the inhibitory transmitters, if they are being prevented from releasing, then the body goes into spastic paralysis. Rhizus sardonicus, trismus, opisthotonus. So these are all the problems that happen with the tetanospasmin is what you need to remember. Now, let's talk about the enterotoxigenic E. coli. Enterotoxigenic E. coli. So, enterotoxigenic E. coli basically produce 2 types of toxins. Heat labile toxin, heat stable toxin. So, the heat labile toxin, it overactivates the adenylate cyclase, increase the cyclic AMP, increase the chloride secretion in the gut. That is a mechanism of heat labile toxin. Whereas heat stable toxin, what does it do? Labile toxin is cyclic GMP, but stable toxin is guanylate cyclase. It increases the cyclic GMP, decrease the resorption of the sodium chloride and water in the gut, and that lead to watery diarrhea. So the two toxins of enterotoxigenic E. coli you need to be very sure about. Now, coming to the Vibrio cholera toxin and anthrax toxin. Many times this question this point came as an MCQ in the NEET PG exam. You need to be 100% sure about, doctor. Vibrio cholera toxin, it overactivates the adenylate cyclase. So please don't forget, it overactivates the adenylate cyclase. It increases cyclic AMP, permanently activate the GS protein, stimulating protein, increasing cyclic AMP. It causes voluminous rice water diarrhea is what you need to remember when it comes to the cholera toxin. Similarly, anthrax toxin. Whenever anthrax toxin arrive, the cells think adenylate cyclase is activated. That increases the cyclic AMP. It causes edematous borders, black eschar, typically in the cutaneous anthrax. Now, doctor, what are the exotoxins that increase fluid secretion and lead to diarrhea, enterotoxigenic, Bacillus anthracis, Vibrio cholera? So remember, E. coli is divided into toxigenic E. coli, hemorrhagic E. coli, invasive E. coli, the different forms of E. coli. Now, what are the bacteria that inhibit the release of neurotransmitters? Clostridium tetani and botulinum. What are the exotoxins which are super antigens that lead to shock? One is Staph aureus, toxic shock syndrome toxin, and Streptococcus pyogenes erythrogenic exotoxin A. So that is the story of this entire mind map. In one snapshot, you have all the exotoxins. What is their mechanism? One MCQ, sure shot to come from this very important mind map. Now, doctor, mind map number 3. So today only take opportunity to download the PDF. I gave the link over there. Now, infant botulinism. So you should know infant botulism. It is caused by the ingestion of the spores. From where do they come from? Soil and raw honey. And the toxin is produced after the spores go into the body and they open up and release the toxin. So in the foodborne botulism, there is a preformed toxin which comes from the canned foods. Whereas in infant botulism, it is the spores from the soil and raw honey that go into the body, and the spores produce the toxin. Then infant botulism and anthrax associated AB toxin, they both are very similar. Even anthrax bacillus toxin also has two components. And in that, the B component is the one which triggers the endocytosis of the active A component. And ultimately, it is the A component which is dangerous, and it usually is ADP, ribosyl transferase. So that is the story of anthrax. Anthrax AB toxin is what you need to remember. So now comes the fourth very important, very important mind map. How does Clostridium perfringens basically work? Clostridium perfringens produce the alpha toxin alpha toxin of the Clostridium perfringens has got a phospholipase activity, that is the lecithinase activity. It degrades the tissue, cell membranes. It leads to myonecrosis, gas gangrene, hemolysis. And there is on the blood agar, when alpha toxin of the Clostridium perfringens is there is something called double zone of hemolysis on the blood agar. And the alpha toxin, the protein degrades the cell membrane, it lyses the RBC, leads to hemolysis, and that is all the story of alpha toxin. Now, if you look at the erythrogenic exotoxin of Streptococcus pyogenes, it leads to toxic shock syndrome, where toxic shock syndrome toxin 1 causes the fever, shock, etc., etc. So that is all the story of these two important toxins. Now, the next mind map that you need to remember is a very important mind map is what is the mechanism of action of the toxic shock syndrome toxin. Typically, it cross-links. There is an area on the MHC class called as T cell receptor. In this, it cross-links with the beta region of the TCR to MHC class 2 on the antigen-presenting cells outside of the antigen binding site, and that causes the release of a lot of cytokines. That is interleukin 1, interleukin 2, interferon gamma, TNF alpha, etc., etc., and that leads to the development of shock. Then there are two important things you need to know in this relation. What are the urease-positive organisms and what are the actions of the urease enzyme? So you should know, urease enzyme hydrolyzes the urea, releases the ammonia and carbon dioxide. It will increase the pH. Similarly, the urease produced by the protease predisposes to struvite stones, renal stones, magnesium ammonium phosphate stones. Now, quickly, what is the list of the urease-positive organisms? Protease, Cryptococcus, H. pylori, Ureaplasma, Nocardia, Klebsiella, Streptococcus, the staph species, Epidermidis and Saprophyticus. These are all the things which are called urease-positive organisms. The list you should not basically forget. Now, the next important question comes. The next important mind map that you need to have in your mind is catalase organisms. So what is the list of the catalase-positive organisms? Bordetella, Helicobacter, Burkholderia, Sapatia, Nocardia, Pseudomonas, Listeria, Aspergillus, Candida, E. coli, Serratia, and Staphylococcus. They're all catalase-positive. So what does catalase enzyme, basically what does it do, doctor? The catalase enzyme, it degrades the hydrogen peroxide into H2O and bubbles of oxygen. And this oxygen becomes an oxygen superradical, and typically by the action of the myeloperoxidase. And that is the one which typically leads to the injury. Now, what is the importance of these catalase-positive organisms? There is one condition called chronic granulomatous disease. There the people have NADPH oxidase deficiency. If you don't have NADPH oxidase, then you don't have a detoxifying ability, reducing ability of the superoxide radicals. And that leads to recurrent infection with the catalase-positive organisms. Once more, doctor, what are the catalase-positive organisms you should remember in this mind map? Surely one MCQ is going to come. Bordetella pertussis, H. pylori, Burkholderia, Sapatia, Nocardia, Pseudomonas, Listeria, Aspergillus candida, E. coli, Serratia, and the Staphylococci is what you need to remember. So that is how so much reading is not needed in the books. What you need basically is 150 mind maps. Please see the download link of the PDF below. And today only take opportunity to quickly revise. To revise all these 150 mind maps, you hardly require not more than 8 hours first time. And every time you require 2-3 hours में एक बार microbiology revision हो जाएगा. That is what is going to come in the tomorrow's NEET PG exam. Thank you.